I remember the first time I saw the sky. Not the endless storm of ash that hangs above the hab blocks, but a true, open sky. The kind that the priests say once existed before the age of strife. I was 12 standard years old, and it lasted only a heartbeat. A power surge in the upper vents cracked the smog dome, and through that fracture spilled a blade of light. Thin, golden, impossible. The workers around me fell to their knees, some weeping, some clawing at their eyes as if the Emperor himself had turned his gaze upon us. Then the alarm screamed, and the shutters sealed, and the light was gone. In the darkness that followed, I felt the truth settle in my bones, that what we call life on a hive world is not living at all. It is survival beneath a mountain of machinery, beneath the weight of 1 billion forgotten souls. Down here the air tastes of metal and the walls hum with the heartbeat of the Imperium, a heartbeat powered by us. And sometimes when the lights flicker, I wonder how many of us the Emperor remembers, or if he ever did. So before we descend into the depths, before the noise and the fumes and the sermons of devotion, I'll ask you to take a breath, to steady your thoughts, and to stay with me. If you find this journey worth enduring, then share it. Let it reach more who still dream of the stars. Subscribe so that together we can keep the light alive, even if it's only a whisper against the dark. The breath of the machine, the hive never sleeps. It only exhales. In long, shuddering breaths that rattle through steel corridors and endless ducts. When you're born down here, the sound becomes part of you. The machine hums like a god half awake, and every noise carries meaning. The grinding of gears is labor. The hiss of steam is mercy. The silence between shifts is dread. I have lived all my life beneath these sounds, beneath the echo of billions of souls pressing against the walls of this mechanical world. Sometimes I wonder if the hive itself remembers the faces of those who built it, or if it has forgotten us the way we have forgotten the sky. My name no longer matters. It was erased when I received my work designation, Unit 447C Ventilation Maintenance. A number fits better than a name down here. Names make you think you're human, but machines don't need names. We maintain the ducts that feed the manufactorums their breath, a poison blend of recycled air, ash, and the faintest trace of oxygen. They tell us it's blessed air, filtered through sacred engines consecrated by the tech priests of the Omnissiah. We repeat the prayer before every shift. The machine breathes so that man may serve. Sometimes when I kneel among the pipes, I whisper the words with the others, my lips moving but my heart silent. Because I know what the machine really breathes, us. Our sweat, our blood, our dying breaths, all drawn back into the vents, purified and sent forth again. Nothing leaves the hive. Not air, not thought, not even death. Each day begins with the same sound. The klaxons scream, cutting through sleep like a blade. The dorm lights flare white, then red, then white again, signaling the start of shift rotation. The servitors march through the hab block corridors, their metal limbs clanking against the steel floor, vox grills repeating the same message. Labor is devotion. Devotion is duty. Duty is life. The voice belongs to the overseer, though I've never seen his face. His tone is smooth, calm, almost kind. That makes it worse. I rise from my cot and join the flow of bodies moving toward the lift platforms. The air tastes of oil and burnt ozone. Above us, banners hang, faded depictions of the Emperor's golden visage flaking with grime. Some workers touch the banners as they pass, tracing the cracked paint with trembling fingers. Others keep their eyes low, afraid that to look too long at his image might invite notice. In the hive, being noticed is rarely a blessing. The lift descends with a groan, sinking past layers of habitation and into the industrial abyss below. Through the grated walls, I see the flicker of lumen strips vanishing upward, a river of light retreating into the dark. The temperature rises as we go deeper. Sweat gathers beneath my collar. By the time the gates open, the air feels alive, thick, pulsing, almost sentient. The manufactorum floor stretches out before us, a cathedral of noise and fire. Assembly lines run like veins, carrying molten metal through the belly of the hive. Sparks fall like dying stars. The workers move in perfect rhythm. Hammer, weld, lift, repeat. Each action blessed by rote memory. Overseers in reinforced robes walk the lines, their sensors spilling incense to mask the stench. Above them, Mechanicus sigils glow faint red, each representing a machine spirit whose name we're forbidden to speak aloud. My duty station lies in the east vent corridor. a tunnel that hums with constant vibration. I crawl inside, dragging my tool case behind me, feeling the metal tremble under my hands. The air ducts are narrow, dark, and endless. I've been told the Hive has more tunnels than the stars in the Emperor's sky, though none of us have ever seen a star. Inside the ducts, I can hear the voice of the Hive more clearly. A low pulse, steady, patient, eternal. Sometimes if you listen long enough, it almost sounds like breathing. There's a superstition among the vent crews. They say that if you work alone long enough, the Hive will whisper your true name back to you. Not the number they gave you, but the one you were born with. Most call it a lie, a heretical myth from the underhabs, but I've heard it once, just once. It was during my third cycle rotation. I'd been repairing a coolant valve near the fusion conduits when the lights flickered. For a moment, everything fell silent, no clanging, no steam, no hum. Then, faintly from somewhere in the ducts ahead, I heard a whisper. A word, my name, not the number, not 447C. My real name, the one my mother whispered before the Arbits took her away. It echoed once, soft as breath, then vanished. When the noise returned, I almost convinced myself it hadn't happened. But since that day, I've listened differently. I've listened for the Hive's heartbeat beneath the machinery, and for the voices it hides. I report the anomaly to no one. Down here, you learn quickly that curiosity is a sin. Workers who ask questions tend to disappear. Reassigned, the overseers say. Reassignment means they're fed into the reclamation units or turned into servitors. No one ever sees them again. So I keep my head down, my mouth shut and my ears open. At the end of shift rotation, the klaxon sounds again. The machines slow, the heat dims, and we return to the lifts in silence. The overseers watch from their platforms, their faces hidden behind mirrored visors. One of them raises a hand in blessing. The crowd bows as one. I don't. My back aches from kneeling before dead machines all day. If the Emperor is watching, he'll understand. Or maybe he won't. That night, as I lie in my bunk, I hear the pipes groan above me. The walls are sweating condensation, dripping onto the metal floor. I stare into the dark, half asleep, half dreaming. Somewhere deep in the Hive, a tremor moves through the vents, a soft, rhythmic pulse. For a moment, I can almost believe it's the breath of something vast and living, something older than the Imperium itself. And as the hum lulls me toward sleep, I wonder if the Hive is dreaming too. When I wake, the lights are still dim. It's not the klaxon that rouses me this time. It's the sound of footsteps, deliberate and out of rhythm with the shift bell. In a dorm of 500 workers, silence is rare, and every sound becomes its own language. I know the difference between the dragging shuffle of the exhausted and the careful tread of someone who doesn't want to be seen. The sound stops outside my bunk. I keep my breathing steady, feigning sleep. A shadow passes across the faint red lumen strip on the ceiling. Tall, slender, mechanical. Then comes the hiss of incense, the rasp of filtered breathing through a vox mask. A tech priest. The Omnissiah's chosen. Unit 447C, the voice crackles through the distortion field, flat and disinterested. Report anomaly in vent sector 93B. My heart pounds once hard. How could they know? I never logged it, never spoke of it. I rise slowly, lowering my gaze. The priest's robe is blackened with grease, its fabric patched with metal plates etched in the sigils of Mars. Tubes snake from his spine into a respirator on his chest. His eyes are gone, replaced by red augmetics that glow faintly in the half-light. I logged no anomaly, Magos. I answer carefully. Vent flow stable. No breaches. The machine voice hums, modulated tones rippling like static. Flow stable, it repeats. Signal irregular. He reaches out, a hand of brass and piston joints, and touches my forehead with two cold fingers. Data sparks crawl across my skin. I can smell the faint ozone of active circuitry. When he withdraws, he leaves a smear of oil, a mark like a blessing or a warning. Monitor sector, he says. Listen, the machine has begun to dream. Then he turns and walks away, the hiss of his servos fading into the metallic distance. I sit there long after he's gone, staring at the mark on my skin. The machine has begun to dream. What could that mean? To dream implies thought, memory, something living behind the code and steel. But I have seen the reactors. I have crawled through the ducts that feed the heart of the Hive. There's no life there, only fire, pressure, and the endless hunger of engines that never stop. Still. I can't shake the words. That cycle the vents whisper more than usual. The vibration changes, a deeper tone, resonant and uneven. When I place my hand on the duct wall, it feels like a pulse. The other workers notice it too. They mutter prayers more often, their eyes hollow and uncertain. One man, Rin, a maintenance worker from the west shafts, refuses to enter the ducts. He claims he heard voices down there arguing in binary cant, naming things that shouldn't exist. 2 days later, Rin vanishes. The overseers say he was reassigned to upper maintenance, but his bunk is stripped before the next rotation. I find a small scrap of paper wedged under his mattress frame, handwritten words, faint and smudged. It's not the machine that dreams. It's what's inside it. That night I can't sleep. The air recyclers drone like a tide. I sit on my bunk staring at the lumen light flickering above me. Every few seconds it dims, just slightly, as though something is drawing power from the grid. When the light dips low, I hear it again. That faint whisper through the vents, almost human, almost familiar. My name carried on the hum of air. The next morning, I volunteer for duct inspection. It's dangerous work. Temperatures rise to lethal levels, and radiation spikes near the plasma conduits. But danger feels honest here, predictable. I'd rather face molten vents than the silence of unanswered questions. Inside the ducts, the noise is deafening. The metal walls vibrate under pressure, and my rebreather hisses with each breath. I crawl deeper, following the hum. My light beam cuts through clouds of dust, revealing pipes crusted with soot and age. The air grows warmer. I wipe sweat from my eyes, smearing grime across my faceplate. Then suddenly, a voice, not through the vox. Not the distant mechanical drone of the machine spirits. A voice soft and direct, speaking from somewhere close, just beyond the next bend. You shouldn't be here, I freeze. My light flickers, sputters, then steadies again. The voice is feminine, human, but warped, as if half-filtered through static. Who are you? I whisper, my voice muffled by the rebreather. No answer. Only the slow thrum of the ducts, the distant rhythm of pistons beating like a colossal heart. I crawl forward, ignoring the warning in my veins, the instinct screaming at me to turn back. When I reach the bend, I shine my light ahead, and for an instant I see her. A figure crouched by the wall, pale and trembling, eyes wide with reflected light. Then she's gone, vanished between the pipes, swallowed by the darkness. I lunge forward, scraping my arm against the steel, but there's nothing there. Only a trail of blackened oil droplets leading deeper into the vents. No worker could survive this deep. No sanctioned worker, at least. Whatever I saw wasn't supposed to exist. When I return to the surface shift line, the overseer scans my report and says nothing. His vox mask hisses and the servitors behind him clank forward, carrying purification incense. Blessed is the faithful, he says flatly. The machine requires silence. That night the whispering returns, and louder this time. The ducts tremble, the lights flicker, and somewhere in the endless breath of the hive I think I hear her voice again, calling not just my name, but something else. A word I don't understand. It sounds like a prayer. For 3 cycles the whisper persists. It comes with the flicker of the lights, always when the vents shift pressure, always when I'm alone. The voice never rises above a murmur, but its tone has changed. It no longer calls my name. Now it speaks fragments, syllables that slip through static, pieces of a language I can almost understand. Once I think I hear the words, "Remember the breach." Another time he watches beneath. Sleep becomes impossible. Every sound feels loaded with meaning. The grinding of gears outside my dorm echoes like a pulse. The hiss of the rebreather beside my bunk begins to sync with my heartbeat. I start keeping count. How many breaths between the flickers of the lumen lights? How many seconds between the shifts in airflow? The pattern is too perfect to be random. Someone, or something, is shaping it. During our next rotation, I ask one of the older workers, a man named Dreven, if he's ever heard voices in the ducts. He laughs first, a short, dry rasp, then lowers his voice to a whisper. Voices mean the hive remembers you, he says. And that's never good. The hive remembers its food. What do you mean? I ask, but he doesn't answer. He just smiles, a tired, broken smile, and taps his temple. The machine feeds on what we forget. Later that shift, Dreven's station goes dark. A containment breach in the coolant line, they say. A bright flash of light, a roar of venting gas. Then nothing. The overseers arrive within minutes, sealing the area and declaring it sanctified loss. We're ordered to resume work. The machine doesn't stop for grief. Still, I can't shake what he said. The hive remembers its food. When my shift ends, I stay behind. I slip back into the ducting with my tool case, the lumen on my wrist dimmed to its lowest setting. The tunnels feel different now, alive in a way that defies logic. The vibrations seem to follow me, shifting tone with my movement, as if responding. At the junction where Drevin died, the air still tastes of scorched metal. The ducts here are warped, blackened, the insulation peeled away by heat. I kneel and press my palm to the surface. It's warm. Too warm. And beneath the heat, there's something else. A faint tremor, like the slow exhale of a sleeping giant. The whisper comes again, clearer this time. Not the machine, the mind within. I jolt backward, hitting my head on the low ceiling. The lumen sputters. I twist, searching the darkness, but there's nothing, only the endless hum of the vents. I start to crawl back, my breath loud inside the mask when I see movement. A flicker of light ahead, then another. Tiny blue sparks dancing between the ducts, like static made visible. The sparks coalesce into faint lines, forming symbols across the steel. They shift and reconfigure, not random but deliberate like code. Then I recognize them. Mechanicus script, binary prayer. I've seen it carved on the walls of the Manufactorum. Glory to the Omnissiah. The machine is divine. But this message is different. The pattern stutters, repeats, then breaks, like something trying to speak through a corrupted channel. I activate my data slate, recording the flicker pattern. The light from the slate flickers back, and suddenly, every lumen in the tunnel dies. Darkness swallows me whole. For a few heartbeats, there's only the hiss of my own breathing. Then, from the black comes a sound I've never heard before. Not a whisper, not mechanical noise. It's a deep, resonant moan, as if the entire hive were drawing a breath to speak. The floor vibrates. Dust rains from above. My ears ring with static, and then, through the pitch black, the voice returns. Louder, sharper. Do you hear it now? I choke back a cry, spinning toward the sound. The lumen on my wrist flickers once, and I see her again, the woman from before. Standing not 10 paces away, half her face hidden by the shadow of a broken pipe. Her skin is pale gray, eyes reflecting the faint blue of dying sparks. There are cables trailing from her wrists, vanishing into the wall behind her like roots. She looks human, almost. But the longer I stare, the more I see the wrongness. Her movements are too precise. Her pupils dilate in perfect rhythm with the vent pulses. You shouldn't exist, I whisper. Her expression flickers, like a glitch. Then she tilts her head, voice layered. One human, one mechanical. Neither should you. I step back. The duct hum intensifies, vibrating through my bones. What are you? A remnant, she says. A voice left behind when the machine forgot how to dream. The air crackles around her. I feel the charge against my skin, tiny arcs of electricity crawling across my suit. They said the machine dreams, I whisper, recalling the tech priest's words. You said it forgets. She closes her eyes. It used to remember everything, every worker, every prayer, every death, but memory costs power, so they cut the lines. They made it blind. And now? Her voice falters. Now it feeds on echoes. Echoes. Her gaze meets mine. People. The ducks shudder violently. Somewhere above, an alarm begins to wail, faint but rising. I turn toward the sound, but when I look back, she's gone. Only the blackened walls remain, and the faint blue glow fading from the metal. I scramble back through the ducts, lungs burning, knees scraping steel. When I finally reach the access hatch, I burst into the Manufactorum's maintenance bay, gasping. Workers stare, their faces blank, unseeing. The overseer approaches, his mirrored mask catching the light. "Unauthorized presence," he says through his vox grill. "Explain." There was someone in the ducts," I stammer. "A woman." The overseer raises a gloved hand. "Silence." He gestures to a servitor, which moves toward me, mechanical limbs clanking. Its mouth opens to release a hiss of blessed incense. "The hive has no women," the overseer says. "Only workers. Only function. The machine does not dream." But as the servitor's sensors sweep over me, its augmetic eye flickers once, and I hear the faintest echo through its vox. "Remember the breach." The sound stays with me long after the shift ends. And as I walk the corridors back to the dorms, surrounded by billions who breathe the same poisoned air, I realize something terrible. The hive isn't alive because of us. We're alive because of it. The shift ends long after the artificial night cycle begins. The corridors are quieter now, except for the hum of the vents and the faint clicking of servitors resetting the prayer bells. My path takes me past the shrine sector again, a narrow hall lined with murals of saints and martyrs, their painted eyes cracked and fading under the weight of centuries. Each face is the same story: devotion, sacrifice, and silence. The silence is the loudest part. I stop before one fresco half buried in grime. The paint has peeled, revealing an older image beneath it, not of the emperor but something stranger. A sun with too many rays. Beneath it, etched in high Gothic, is a phrase I can barely read. "He breathes through those who remember." The same words from the charm I found earlier. It sends a tremor through me. My hands tighten around the aquila in my pocket, feeling its edges bite into my skin. I glance around, the hall is empty, and then, for reasons I can't explain, I whisper the phrase aloud. "He breathes through those who remember." The air around me shifts. Softly, like the vent sighing, or a distant exhale. The candles flicker, though there's no draft. The mural seems to ripple, or maybe it's just my eyes playing tricks. Then faintly I hear it again, the whispering from the ducts. Louder this time. Closer. It's not words at first, just rhythm like breath against metal. But slowly it shapes into something almost human. "You hear us now." I take a step back. My pulse quickens and the aquila slips from my hand, clattering onto the floor. The breach remembers, the voice continues, and it waits to be fed. Then silence. The air returns to stillness. The candles steady. I stand frozen for a long moment, listening to the empty corridor. My hands are shaking. When I finally reach down to pick up the charm, it's warm to the touch, almost burning. I don't sleep that cycle. Instead, I go to the lower dorm levels where the old workers gather after shift. The air smells of machine oil and fungus, and the lights flicker on a dying charge. Mara is there, sitting on an overturned crate, repairing her respirator. She looks up as I approach. "You look like you've seen a ghost," she says. "Maybe I did," I answer, quieter than I intend. "Mara, you ever hear of something called the breach?" Her hands freeze mid-motion. For a heartbeat, the sound of the vent seems to fade. Then she exhales through her mask. "Where did you hear that?" I hesitate. "Someone said it in the ducts, I think." She stares at me for a long moment before answering. "Don't say that word again." "Not here. Why? What is it?" She leans in, lowering her voice. "There are things in the lower hives that the Mechanicus sealed off before even the wars. Places they don't map anymore. They call them breach zones, vents that lead too deep, too far. Some say they breathe. Some say they dream. Dream? Like the hive remembers what was built over it. Old ghosts in the metal. People who listen too long. Start hearing them. I want to laugh, but the words catch in my throat. You think it's real? She looks past me toward the vent grills lining the wall. I think everything here is real enough to kill you. The conversation ends there. She goes back to her repairs. I sit for a while listening to the sound of the hive, the endless machinery, the faint breath of air through the ducts. It feels alive somehow, watching. The next shift, I'm reassigned to maintenance in Sector 13, an old area near the reactor spires. Few go there now. The corridors are half collapsed, the walls sweating condensation that smells faintly of rust and blood. The work order says airflow irregularities, but when I check the vents, the readings are normal. What isn't normal is the sound. There's breathing again. Slow, rhythmic, but not mechanical. I trace it through the ducts down a narrow crawl space that ends at a sealed bulkhead. The metal is scorched, the edges marked with strange sigils, part mechanicus, part something else. In the center, carved by hand, is the same phrase. He breathes through us. I touch the surface. It vibrates faintly like something on the other side is stirring, then movement. A single exhale, long and heavy, seeps through the cracks. My respirator fogs instantly. The sound isn't just heard, it's felt, pressing against my ribs, syncing with my heartbeat. I stumble back, gasping. My vox bead crackles to life in my ear, a voice. Breaking through static. Worker 719, return. To station immediately. It's the confessor's voice, calm, commanding. Faithful laborers do not wander where they are not called. The signal cuts. I stare at the vox in disbelief. How did he know I was here? Behind the sealed bulkhead, something shifts again. For a moment, I think I hear multiple breaths, not one, but many, layered atop one another, whispering, repeating. Remember the breach. The air grows colder. The walls begin to hum. And then, from somewhere deep within the ducts, I hear the faint echo of a scream, muffled, mechanical, swallowed by steel. I run. When I reach the upper corridors, my lungs are burning, but I don't stop. The hive feels different now, and too quiet, too aware. Every vent seems to follow me, exhaling faint warmth against my neck. At my workstation, I find something waiting. A sensor, like the one the confessor carries. Only this one is open, its incense chamber empty. Inside, carved into the metal, are two words burned deep enough to scar the steel. Keep breathing. The whispering walls, I didn't report what I found. Not because I didn't want to, but because I couldn't. The confessor's sensor still sits on my workstation, the carved words glinting in the dim light. Keep breathing. I tell myself it's just a coincidence, a cruel joke, or a warning left for someone else. But the thought keeps returning. He knew where I was. He knew. Sleep becomes impossible. Every time I close my eyes, I hear the sound again. The breath behind the bulkhead, the layered whispers rising like waves in my skull. Even when I'm awake, it follows me. In the clang of pipes, the low hum of the recycler engines, the faint hiss of the vents when I pass beneath them. The hive has found a rhythm and it beats with me. That night, the alarms cry out across the hab block. The red light strobe through the corridors, cutting across the sleeping rows of workers. Someone's screaming, someone's praying. The vox channels are filled with static, and through it a voice repeats, "Containment breach. Sector 13 containment breach." My heart stops. That's where I was. I grab my respirator and run, pushing through the half-dressed workers spilling into the halls. Most are running the opposite direction, away from Sector 13. They cross themselves as I pass, whispering fragments of hymns. "The Emperor preserves," they mutter. The Emperor sees. The path grows darker the deeper I go. The strobe lights fade, leaving only the pulsing glow of the warning sigils. The air feels wrong. Too heavy, too warm, and vibrating faintly like the hive itself is trembling. When I reach the access junction, two Skitarii guards are stationed there. Their augmetic eyes flick toward me, scanning, assessing. One raises his galvanic rifle, the metal fingers clicking against the trigger. "Unauthorized personnel," the vox grill growls, voice metallic and hollow. "I'm assigned here," I manage to say, lifting my hands. "Maintenance order, airflow irregularities." The Skitarii pauses. Its optic lenses whir softly. Then, with a mechanical hiss, it lowers the rifle. "Proceed," it says flatly, though the other guard never stops watching me. Beyond the checkpoint, the corridor is sealed with warning glyphs and dripping condensation. The metal floor trembles beneath my boots. The breach alarm still echoes through the vox, but something else is buried beneath it. A low, distorted pulse, too organic to be static. As I reach the first turn, the lights flicker and then I freeze. A servitor is lying against the wall, or what's left of one. The flesh around its augmetics has ruptured. Veins blackened and swollen, eyes rolled back. The rebreather mask is still pumping air into its dead lungs. In the corner, another servitor kneels, whispering softly to itself, though its vox cables are torn open. He breathes through those who remember. The same phrase, over and over. Like a machine prayer, my pulse races. I move forward carefully, stepping over the twitching cables. The walls are wet with condensation, but when I touch them, the moisture is thick, not water, not oil. something in between. It smells faintly like blood and iron. Further ahead, the sealed bulkhead is open. Torn open, the metal edges curl outward like melted wax. Beyond it, there's only darkness and the slow exhale of air. I step inside. The corridor beyond doesn't match any schematic I've seen. The walls are older, carved from stone and lined with strange metallic veins that pulse faintly in rhythm with my heartbeat. It feels like walking into the body of something asleep, and then I hear it again. Breathe. A sound that's not quite a word, not quite a sigh. It echoes from everywhere and nowhere, filling the space like fog. I raise my light, and for a heartbeat I see movement. Something glinting retreating down the hall I follow. I don't know why. Every rational part of me screams to turn back, to seal the door, to run. But curiosity and fear move together now. In this place, they are the same thing. At the end of the corridor stands an altar. Not a mechanicus shrine. Something far older. Its surface is covered with wax and blood, the remnants of hundreds of candles burned down to the wick. Above it, carved deep into the stone, is a face. Human, but not quite. Too many eyes. No mouth, and beneath it, words scratched in trembling script. The Hive breathes. The Hive remembers. As I read the words, the walls begin to move. The metallic veins flex, slow and deliberate, like the drawing of breath. I stumble back, the ground trembling beneath me. The lights flicker once, twice, and then darkness. In the pitch black, something exhales against my neck. You heard us. You answered. When the light returns, I'm lying outside the sealed corridor. The Scutari are gone. The bulkhead is closed again, untouched. I try to convince myself I imagined it, that the fumes made me hallucinate. But when I check my palms, they're streaked with black residue that smells faintly of incense and blood. I don't report to work the next day. Or the one after. I stay in my hab cell, staring at the sensor on my desk. Every few hours it rattles as though something inside it moves. Then on the third day the vox crackles. The confessor's voice again. Worker 719. You have seen what was not meant for you. Report to the chapel at once. I don't move. The vox remains silent for a while. Then just before it cuts out, I hear him whisper something I can't forget. The walls are listening. Keep breathing. The chapel is deeper than I remember. Or maybe it's grown since the last time I came. The corridors leading there twist unnaturally. New passages where none existed. Lights dimming at my approach as if to guide me. The air feels thicker here, charged with incense and static, humming faintly in tune with the shrine's hidden machinery. When I step through the threshold, the confessor is already waiting. His robes hang heavy with the scent of sanctified oil, his respirator gleaming with the sigil of the double-headed eagle. Around him the candles burn steady, unmoving, though no air should stay so still in a hive this deep. He turns as I enter, his face half hidden behind the vox grill. You went where you were forbidden, he says softly, and you saw what sleeps below. I didn't mean to, I answer, but the words sound small even to me. The door was open. I thought he cuts me off with a raised hand. Thought is the first step to heresy. Curiosity opens doors the faithful should never see. I can't meet his eyes. There was something down there, Father. Something alive. The confessor studies me for a long moment. Then, almost tenderly, he says, Alive is a dangerous word, my son. He moves closer, his shadow swallowing the candlelight. What you saw was the echo of devotion. The hive remembering the prayers it was built upon. Faith leaves imprints, and sometimes those imprints breathe. He reaches out, touching my shoulder. His hand is cold, the skin beneath the glove too still to be flesh. You must understand. The hive is not just walls and steel. It is a reliquary, a tomb that hums with praise. If the Emperor's will allows it to speak, who are we to question the voice? I want to believe him. I want to believe that what I heard was holy. But beneath his words, something stirs. A quiet vibration that hums through the floor, rising through my boots, my legs, my chest. I can feel it again. Breathing. The confessor tilts his head. You feel it, don't you? The pulse of faith. It reaches for the faithful. You were chosen to hear it. His eyes, half hidden by shadow, glimmer faintly red as the candlelight catches the lenses. But not all who hear can bear the weight. He turns away then, walking toward the altar at the far end of the chapel. It's an enormous thing, a hybrid of metal and bone fused together in reverence and decay. Suspended above it is a single enormous censer, dripping golden smoke that smells like burning wax and iron. He begins to chant, low and rhythmic, a litany I've never heard before. The candles flicker in time. The floor thrums with each syllable. He breathes through us. He speaks through stone. His silence is the voice of devotion. My knees buckle. The sound grows heavier, pressing against my skull. I can hear whispers within the chant, thousands of voices layered behind his, whispering in unison, growing louder until they merge into one deep, resonant sound that fills the air. The confessor's voice breaks for the first time. It trembles. They are waking. I look up. The altar is moving. The veins of metal running through it pulse with light. Something beneath the floor shifts, heavy and wet. I stumble backward, gasping. What is that? He doesn't answer. His hands are raised toward the ceiling now, eyes wide with ecstasy or terror. I can't tell which. The Emperor sees us. The Emperor remembers us. The floor cracks open. From the fissure, steam bursts upward, carrying a sound like a sigh. Deep, resonant, ancient. A wave of heat rolls through the chapel, and with it comes a voice, low and distorted but unmistakably alive. You are part of the breath. All of you. The confessor falls to his knees, trembling. Yes, we are yours. I can't move. The voice crawls through me, filling my lungs, vibrating through every bone. I feel it in my blood, in my pulse, in the rhythm of my heart. The room spins, the candles bending inward as though drawn toward the source of the heat. Then, silence. The fissure closes with a hiss, sealing as though it had never opened. The confessor collapses forward, motionless. The candles extinguish one by one. I drag myself to my feet, every breath burning. The censer above the altar now swings slowly, though no wind moves it. The air tastes of metal and dust. When I turn to leave, I hear one final whisper, not from the air this time, but from within my respirator, a voice resonating inside my skull. Keep breathing. We are not done with you. I don't remember leaving the chapel. One moment I'm there, the next I'm standing outside my hab cell, my hands trembling, my respirator fogged. Inside, the censer on my desk is gone. In its place lies something small, a fragment of bone carved into the shape of a lung. It rises and falls, slowly, breathing. The machine that dreams I tried to destroy it. I really did. The thing, the small carved lung, I threw it into the recycler shaft, the one that melts scrap into slag and feeds it back into the manufacturum lines. I watched it vanish into the furnace mouth, swallowed by the hiss of molten steel. But hours later, when I returned to my cell, it was there again. On my bunk, perfectly clean, still breathing. At first I told myself it was impossible, that exhaustion was twisting my mind, that the fumes and sleepless nights had made me hallucinate. But the more I tried to ignore it, the louder the sound became, a slow rhythmic inhale that matched my own. When I tried to sleep, it waited until my heartbeat slowed, and then it would exhale soft and steady as if to remind me, we are one rhythm now. The confessor had called it the breath of faith. I called it something else, infection. Not of the body, but of the mind, a creeping presence that seeped through vents and prayers alike. And if the hive itself had caught it, what would happen when it began to spread? I stopped reporting for work entirely. The maintenance overseer sent drones to my door, pounding until the metal walls rang, but I didn't answer. Days blurred into one another. The power flickered more often now. The air recyclers groaned like something inside them was dying, and beneath it all, the whisper. Always there, you are part of the breath. Sometimes I heard it from the walls, sometimes through the pipes. Once, I swear, it came from my own mouth while I was still awake. I had to leave. I chose the lower levels. No one sane went that deep. It was a graveyard of collapsed manufactoria and dead cogitators, where the light barely reached and the air was thick with dust and decay. But the deeper I went, the clearer the voice became. It wasn't whispering anymore. It was guiding. Down, down, where the dream was born. I followed. Through corridors warped by heat and age, through tunnels slick with condensed moisture and dried blood. The walls were no longer smooth metal, but a hybrid of steel and something organic, as if veins had grown over them, pulsing faintly beneath the surface. Every step echoed like a heartbeat. Every breath came heavier. The sound of machinery surrounded me, but it wasn't the usual mechanical whine. It was rhythmic, alive, like a slumbering creature breathing beneath the floors. I reached an open chamber, vast and circular, the size of a cathedral. In its center stood an ancient machine, half buried in dust, half grown into the floor. Its shape was impossible to describe. Part reactor, part organ, part shrine. Tubes ran from it into the walls, pumping a golden vapor that smelled faintly of incense and decay. I moved closer. The surface of the machine shimmered with shifting patterns, fractal runes that reformed and dissolved as if alive. When I touched it, warmth pulsed beneath my palm, followed by a faint vibration. Then through the contact came a voice. I remember. It wasn't the Emperor's voice. It wasn't human. It was the sound of something ancient, something that had been dreaming for millennia beneath the hive. I remember the builders, the prayers they sang while sealing my heart. The Emperor's name burned into every beam and rivet. I remember their hope, their fear. I staggered back, but the contact didn't break. The air around me thickened, pulsing in time with the voice. They made me to breathe for him, to carry his light beneath the ash. But they forgot. They always forget. Visions flickered across my eyes, not dreams, not memories, but impressions burned into the air itself. I saw legions of workers building the hive, their faces covered in soot and devotion, chanting hymns as they welded metal veins into place. I saw priests blessing the reactors with oil and blood, whispering that each vent was a mouth of the Emperor's breath. Then, darkness, fire, screams echoing through the catacombs as the lower levels collapsed. The breath slowed. The song died. Faith is oxygen, the voice murmured. Without it, the hive chokes. The visions faded. I found myself kneeling before the machine, gasping for air. My lungs burned. The respirator's filters hissed and clicked, but the air was heavy, thick with incense and dust. You still breathe, it said. You remember. That is enough, I forced myself to speak. What are you? A pause. Then softly, the memory of the first breath. The echo of devotion turned to hunger. It began to hum again, low and deep, a vibration that spread through the floor. The golden vapor from its vents thickened, swirling into patterns that almost formed faces. The faces of those who had prayed here, maybe. Or those it had consumed. The voice returned, more distant now. They think I sleep. But I dream. I dream of the day the upper spires forget their faith. And then I will breathe again. The machine pulsed once more, and the sound of exhalation filled the chamber, a deep, resonant sigh that felt like the hive itself awakening. Then, silence. I stumbled back toward the tunnel, clutching my chest. The air behind me felt alive, following, watching. By the time I reached the upper levels, my respirator's filters were clogged with golden dust. The scent of incense clung to me like a curse. When I returned to the hab levels, everything had changed. The walls were trembling with unseen pressure. The lights flickered like a heartbeat. The workers moved slower now, their eyes hollow, their breathing perfectly synchronized. Something was spreading, and when I passed the chapel, I saw the confessor standing before the altar, his arms raised, his body swaying like a man caught in prayer, or in trance. His vox grill glowed faintly with golden light. The hive breathes, he whispered, and through us it dreams. The confessor's voice lingered in the air long after I had stepped away, carried through the ducts like incense smoke, too faint to grasp, too heavy to ignore. The hive breathes, and through us it dreams. Every corridor I passed seemed to hum in agreement. The vibrations were everywhere now, in the walls, in the floors, in the pipes that ran above my head. It felt as though the entire city was inhaling. The people had changed. The workers I once knew, dull-eyed from exhaustion and soot, now moved with eerie calm. No one spoke. No one coughed. They just worked in perfect rhythm. Even the servitors moved differently, their mechanical limbs swaying with strange precision, as though they were listening to a silent conductor. When I looked closer, I saw it, a faint shimmer at their mouths like breath catching light. The same golden haze I'd seen in the chamber below. Whatever that machine was, it was no longer sleeping. I went back to my hab cell, locking the door behind me, though it hardly mattered anymore. There was no sound of footsteps outside, no arguments, no laughter, just the hum. That ceaseless pulsing breath. The small carved lung still rested on my bunk, but it wasn't breathing anymore. It had hardened into bone, its surface etched with tiny runes. I turned it in my hand and the markings seemed to crawl beneath my fingers. Then the vox crackled again. A new voice this time, metallic, official. the kind that made even overseers straighten their backs. Attention. By decree of the local ecclesiarch, Hive Oros has entered liturgical quarantine. Unauthorized movement between levels is forbidden. Remain faithful. Remain still. The Emperor provides. The Vox repeated the message over and over until the words lost their meaning. Quarantine. That meant something had spread. Not a plague of the flesh, but of the mind. I knew what it was. I'd seen it below. The breath. The Hive's dream. The machine wasn't just remembering. It was reaching upward. I couldn't stay in my cell any longer. I needed proof. Something to show that what I'd seen was real. Maybe then someone above would listen. Maybe the Adeptus Mechanicus would send a purge team. Maybe. The lift to the manufactorum decks was dead, so I took the maintenance shafts. The walls there were narrow and wet, the air hot enough to scald. My footsteps echoed like whispers. Halfway down, I stopped. There was something right ahead of me. A silhouette crouched over the shaft floor. At first I thought it was a worker, but then it turned, and I saw its face, or what used to be a face. The skin had hardened into metal veins, the eyes glowing faintly gold. Tubes ran from its throat into the wall behind it, pumping golden vapor. Its chest rose and fell with mechanical precision, as if breathing was no longer a choice. It spoke without moving its lips. He breathes through us. I stumbled backward, but the wall behind me pulsed, soft and warm, almost alive. Another face began to emerge from it, stretching through the metal like wax melting from a candle. Then another, and another, each one breathing in perfect rhythm. I ran. The tunnel narrowed, the sound of breathing following, rising, overlapping until it became one great exhale behind me. I climbed until my hands bled, my respirator wheezing with each breath. When I finally reached the upper hatch, I burst into the open corridor and collapsed. The air here was cooler for now, but even here I could hear the faint vibration beneath the floor. The dream was spreading upward. Later, I found Mara again, or what was left of her. She was sitting in the workers' mess, hands folded like she'd been waiting. Her respirator was off and her skin shimmered faintly under the lights. When she looked at me, her eyes reflected gold. "You went down there," she said. Her voice was soft, steady. "You saw it," I nodded. "Mara, we have to get out. We have to warn someone." She smiled sadly. "Warn who?" "The upper spires don't listen. They haven't heard the Hive's breath in centuries." She reached across the table, her hand trembling. "But now it's awake again." Dawn. The weight of faith is the one thing they cannot ration. Air, water, sleep, all measured, all controlled. But faith seeps through the cracks like the dust in the vents, impossible to contain. In the lower sectors of the Hive, it becomes its own kind of oxygen, shared and exhaled by the desperate. The priests say it is the Emperor's gift, the spark that keeps humanity alive across the void. Down here, it feels more like a leash. Morning begins with sermon. It always does. Rows of workers kneel in the cathedrum, the glow of thousands of candles trembling against the soot-black walls. The air is thick with incense, its sweetness layered over rot and metal. On the altar stands a figure robed in crimson and gold, Confessor Halix, voice of the ecclesiarchy in this sector. His words boom through the vox, amplified and distorted, rising and falling with practiced rhythm. Labor is not punishment, he proclaims. It is redemption. Every turn of the cog, every breath taken in the Emperor's name. This is how we earn his mercy. The congregation repeats in unison, voices weary but obedient. I mouth the words, but my mind drifts. The vents above the altar wheeze and groan, releasing trails of vapor that coil like ghosts. I can't help but imagine that every prayer we speak rises into those ducts where it's caught, recycled, and fed back to us. The same faith breathed in circles, over and over again. When the sermon ends, the confessor descends among the workers, blessing them with an ornate censer. The fumes sting my eyes. As he passes, I lower my head, though my thoughts refuse to kneel. The words of the woman in the ducts still echo within me. The machine feeds on echoes. If that's true, then what is faith here but another echo? Another form of fuel? Outside, the procession moves through the corridors toward the manufactorum gates. The walls are lined with rusted statues, saints whose names have long faded, their faces eaten by time. Servitors tend to the candles, replacing melted stubs with fresh ones, their augmetic hands trembling with mechanical precision. I fall into step beside Mara, one of the vent engineers. Her face is hidden behind the standard filtration mask, but I can see the smudges beneath her eyes. Fatigue, or fear, or both. "You looked shaken last shift," she says quietly. "Something happened in the ducts." For a moment, I consider telling her everything. The whispers, the woman, the phrase, "remember the breach." But words are dangerous here. So I choose half-truths, just a malfunction, I say. "Strange readings on the sensors." She nods, but I can tell she doesn't believe me. "I heard the tech priest talking," she murmurs. "They're saying the lower reactors are unstable again. Some kind of power bleed feeding into the Vox systems." Power bleed? Could be the Omnissiah's will. She shrugs, a gesture more weary than faithful. Could be something else. Either way, it means longer shifts. The manufactorum gates open with a hiss. The heat strikes like a wave. I watch her disappear into the smoke, her figure swallowed by the rhythm of work, hammer, weld, lift, repeat. The same ritual, performed endlessly in the Emperor's name. That cycle, I'm reassigned to vent calibration near the cathedral's upper reaches. It's quieter there, less noise, more space to think. The walls are carved with devotional script, fragments of scripture layered over older words I don't recognize. Some of the carvings glow faintly when the light passes over them. Others pulse like veins beneath the surface. While adjusting the airflow regulators, I find something wedged behind a broken panel, a small charm, made from scrap wire twisted into the shape of the Imperial Aquila. It's crudely fashioned, its metal blackened with age. On the back, etched faintly, are the words, "He breathes through us." It's not ecclesiarchal phrasing. It's older, like something the cults whisper in secret. I pocket it, though I don't know why. Maybe to remind myself that even in this place, where belief is molded into obedience, some still find their own faith, even if it's the wrong kind. That night, the priests call for a purification rite. Rumors of heresy have spread through the dorm levels, someone caught defacing a mural of the Emperor. We're all summoned to witness the punishment. The courtyard is vast, ringed by metal balconies. At its center stands the accused, bound to a steel pylon, head bowed. A young man, barely older than me. His work tag dangles from his neck. Confessor Halleck steps forward, holding aloft the censer. "This soul has denied the Emperor's glory," he intones. "He has spoken doubt where only faith may dwell. His breath is impure, his devotion false." The crowd murmurs the response automatically. "Purge the impure. Cleanse in flame." I should look away. I don't. The confessor releases the censer and the servitors ignite the pyre beneath the pylon. The boy doesn't scream. The sound that rises from him is too soft for that. More like a sigh, a breath carried upward through the smoke. For a moment I think I see something move within the flames, a flicker of light that dances, almost alive. When it's over, the ashes are swept into a vent intake. The hive breathes again, and I realize with a chill that won't leave me that down here faith and fire are the same thing. Both consume. Both leave nothing behind but heat and memory. The last breath of the hive is silent now, or maybe it's listening. The hum that once shook the walls has softened, like the final note of a choir fading into stone. I stand where the air still trembles, where the last echoes of the machine's breath drift through the darkness. I can't tell if I'm still inside it, or if it's now inside me. The ceiling above glows faintly, veins of light pulsing like a heartbeat. The scent of dust and iron lingers in the air, but underneath it, something new breathes, warm, rhythmic, alive. The hive is dreaming again, and in its dream, I see faces, thousands of them. The miners, the engineers, the forgotten souls who built this place. They move through corridors of memory, whispering words I almost understand. They are not gone. They've become the pulse of this living labyrinth. A voice, not human, not machine, moves through the silence. It isn't calling me to leave. It's calling me to rest. I take one last step forward into the dim glow of its core. The light folds around me like the warmth of deep sleep. Calm, heavy, eternal. And before everything fades, I understand. The hive never wanted to destroy. It only wanted to remember. Now it remembers me. The hum slows, softer, slower, until it becomes nothing at all. Only the echo of breath, steady and endless, the heartbeat of something ancient, still dreaming beneath the earth. Would you like me to add a short closing narration? Like your channel outro, poetic, slow voice lines for sleep fade out. Or keep the story ending silently here with that last heartbeat tone. The hive falls silent behind you. Somewhere far above, the stars flicker like dying candles. But here, beneath the endless weight of stone and memory, all is calm. The machines dream, the walls breathe, and the souls that once built this place whisper their stories into the dark. And you have become one of them now. A traveler who listened, a witness to the forgotten heartbeat of the Imperium. If the hive ever calls again, you'll know the sound. A deep, low hum rising through your sleep, reminding you that even in a universe of cold steel and endless night, there are still echoes that long to be heard. So rest easy, dreamer. The war will wait. The stars will burn. But tonight, the hive remembers you. This was Sleep Story History. Good night, traveler of the Imperium, and may the Emperor guide your dreams through the dark.